So today, just my company's name is Green Rock, and I'm just gonna cover, who we are, why we formed our company, and what we do in general. And then at a later date, as I mentioned, we'll go over, much more in specifics if you have further interest in finding out about what we do. So first and foremost, I work with Green Rock, but we are in the broker dealer space. So this is a registered investment. So with that, I'd like to just discuss. There's an investment risk of loss. There is lack of liquidity because we are investing in real estate. There are fees associated with this. And again, when we go into further detail, I'll go into a lot of this in more detail, and we can have a Q&A. There's a PPM called a private placement memorandum that'll have all the risks associated with this type of investment. But just know that this is real estate, and with any type of real estate investment, there is risk of loss. So we'll go over that at a later date. And here's some more risk disclosures. Again, everything is in the PPM. Nothing that I'm showing you here today is going to be an offer to buy or sell. This is just kind of a very overview of gravel and granite mining, of overview of Green Rock, and an overview of conservation easements and how they work with Congress and with our programs. So I'm just going to kind of cover just the first about Green Rock and a little bit about gravel and granite mining and land conservation today. So Green Rock, we are located in Birmingham, Alabama, and we have been in existence for 5 years as a company. And we've been doing the deals that we will discuss in the future. We've been doing deals for about 3 years. This is our third year doing them. And our principals are located, as I mentioned, in Birmingham, and they just live there. But down in the South, we do gravel and granite mining, and a lot of our team is very well versed and has a lot of expertise in gravel and granite mining in the South. So we just decided to build our company. One of the largest, actually the largest. Let me backtrack. The largest open pit gravel mining company in the United States is called Vulcan Materials, and you can see that on my lower right. And that's the largest crushed stone mining company in the United States. So we're in the same town as the largest mining company in the United States. And when I talk about mining, I talk about Green Rock. The mining I'm talking about is open pit mines. This is not, gold or silver or oil. This is just going in, blasting granite, big, huge chunks of granite, blowing them up and making big rocks into small rocks so that they can be used in cement and road construction, building construction, just basic raw materials. So our executives have over 100 years of combined work experience in the real estate mining industries, as well as in capital raising. And here's your little tidbit that you may not have known. Most people don't, and there's no reason why you would. Birmingham, in that middle box, it says iron and steel. Birmingham is Alabama's largest city, and it's named after Birmingham, England. And Birmingham, England is where the steel, iron ore and steel industry in England, that's the center for England. And in Birmingham, Alabama, it's the only place in the world that the three materials for steel, which are coal, iron ore, and limestone, exist naturally within a 10-mile radius. So that's why Birmingham was placed there, just because all the raw materials were there. And our business model is to develop or to do the research on, find good land to develop into a gravel or granite mine, do all the underwriting to come up with a valuation of what the mine would be worth today if we develop the mine, and then ultimately come up with the present value of that mine. And then if our clients choose to actually invest in the mine, they can, or if they choose to conserve the land, they can. And I'll go into that in a lot more detail, but each has its own benefits and its own risks. And we have about 15 employees right now. And again, our complete focus is on mining and or the conservation of the land that the mine would be on. So our principals, Clayton and Todd founded the company about 5 years ago. And Clayton and Todd have been working together for 15 years doing land deals, private deals together in the apartment space, in the land space. They're both kind of serial entrepreneurs, got great track records between the two of them. And they, years ago, they were doing the land development for another company that would then take the land development and put it into a program where they sold it to investors. And after a little while of Clayton and Todd getting very good at that, they realized that, hey, why don't we just, instead of doing all the research, finding the land, doing the due diligence, and coming up with a value for a potential mine, and then selling it to somebody else, why don't we just keep it in-house and go vertically integrated, where we buy the land, we do the research, we come up with a value, we create a business plan, and then we have investors invest in our programs, and then we work with those investors through investor relations and other programs for years to come. So that's kind of the genesis of Green Rock 3 years ago. That's when we began to be fully vertically integrated, and that's when they brought Chris Devine on board and myself. I'm a principal, but I'm a principal of Green Rock, but I work on the Green Rock capital market side. So a little bit confusing. I can go over the details at a later date, but that's why my picture's not up here. David Grayson is our director of mining, engineering, and geology, or we call it geologic engineering and mining, or our GEM division. David used to work for Vulcan Materials, which I talked about in the previous slide, for about 25 years. And so David has just an incredible wealth of knowledge on developing, valuing, developing, operating, and closing down mines in the Southeast. So while he was at Vulcan, he used to run at any given time probably about 70 mines in the Southeast. He's taken from start to finish 12 mines. So open space land, raw land, come up with a business plan, execute on the business plan, open up the mine, run the mine for 15, 20 years, and then shut it down. And that's we were able to get David about a year and a half ago from Vulcan. He was a very key hire in our business model. And again, I can go over more details with David in the future. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot forward a couple slides. And this is going to be kind of at a very high level what we do. The first picture you see is called open space. That is the open land. That we call it a green field. And that green field could turn into the lower picture, which is an open pit mine. So the process of us coming up with a business plan and coming up with a present value equation of whether or not we should open up and begin to mine on that particular site. And that's where this investment comes in, where you guys as investors will have the opportunity to either say to me as an investor, Anthony, I want to keep the open space and I don't want you to build the lower picture, or I want you to make a hole in the ground and create a mine, and I'd like to receive the benefits and the profits from that. So real quick, once you invest with us, you will have read the PPM, the private placement memorandum, you understand the risks. You will then have a vote to either develop the land, hold the land for some future development, or you can conserve the land. And if you can conserve the land, that's where you get some significant tax benefits from on filing your tax return. You actually get a tax deduction that I'll go into in a lot more detail. So come back and see me in the future. We have a live event coming up here shortly, and I will go through this is just a very basic overview on what the program is and some of the options that you will have as investors coming into our program to either invest in and develop into a mine, or do a conservation easement whereby we don't build a mine, but we can receive some potential tax deduction in the year that we make this investment.